It's the first day of school. I talk to myself as I walk.
This year I gotta buckle down. The second grade is serious business.
I'm not wearing pigtails. My hair has been pin-curled, frizzy on the ends, parted on the side, and held in place by a red plastic 2 lovebirds on a stick beret. A vinegar rinse gives it red highlights, and it bounces as I walk. My new dress is blue and white checked with a white piqué yoke embroidered with cherries. I feel so attractive in this outfit that just this morning I've said to my mother,
Mama, if I die while I'm still a kid, will you bury me in this dress?
My new school bag slung across my chest bangs between my elbow and my waist. Inside, my new Cinderella pencil box with its own built-in sharpener. No more interrupting walks to the windowsill. And something I have always wanted, a big new art gum eraser with all its corners still sharp. I should feel a lot better than I do. And I did until last May when Miss Fortin called on me to read aloud. I like school. And when I'm asked to read aloud, I read aloud. Full out. A performance almost. Lily Tomlin, you read for us. Everything is going well. The class is caught up in the story. I've got him. Very loudly I say,
Jack is worried. He cannot find the boat. There is water all around the island.
How was I supposed to know? You think you're okay, and then something like Island comes along. That was last May. For the rest of the term, when I was asked to read aloud, I would just mumble into my book. And now I've spent the entire summer hoping and praying that I will not be Lily Island Tomlin for the rest of my life. But deep in my heart, I know it's impossible for 30 kids to have moved and changed schools over the summer. I dread the schoolyard.
Hey, Island! Larry, there's that kid Tomlin, so stupid.
Oh, yeah, Island. But like every other kid in America, I have the chance to start over again each September. And after my first day in the second grade, I'm happy. Because nobody seems to remember Island, and because I found the best reason ever to like school, Miss Sweeny.
Miss Sweeny, Mama, her name is Miss Sweeny. She said we could sit wherever we want. I sat right up front, and she smiled at me. Mama, she looks just like a movie star.
Miss Sweeny did look like a movie star. She looked like Loretta Young. And she wore cashmere sweaters to school. Each one monogrammed with a little M, big S, little A. I'd sit at that first desk in row 3 for hours trying to figure out that monogram. I knew the big S stood for Sweeny, and I just had to know what her first name was, little M, little A. And one day when I should have been coloring Lake Michigan blue, I peeped up and I saw Miss Sweeny reach inside her cashmere sweater. My heart stopped. As I watched the shape of her hand move slowly under little M, big S, little A. I didn't have breasts yet. I was only 7. But I knew that when I did, I would feel about mine exactly the way Miss Sweeny felt about hers. That day I walked her to her car for the first time. What is it that you wanted to ask me, Lily?
Is your first name Margaret Ann?
Oh, how did you guess?
It was just a hunch. Could I call you Margaret Ann?
Well, I think you'd better call me Miss Sweeny.
Yeah, okay.
Well, at least in front of the other children.
See you tomorrow, Margaret.
In my mind, we were friends. True, she was taller. Almost 3 feet. But they didn't let kids wear high heels to school in those days. In class, if I'd speak out of turn, she'd understand. She'd say, "Hold your horses, Lily." And then she'd laugh. I could always make her laugh when I wanted to, and I almost always wanted to. Some days, if she was tired after school, I'd understand. It wasn't easy teaching 30 kids how to read and write. I didn't think of myself as teacher's pet. It's just that I had nothing in common with a bunch of illiterate 7-year-olds. I knew Miss Sweeny had a boyfriend, and I had a hunch his name was Darryl. Yes, one day Darryl would walk into class. Miss Sweeny would turn from the blackboard. Their eyes would meet. Darryl would rush to her side, sweep her up into his arms, and give her a long, passionate movie star kiss. The other kids would laugh and titter. What could you expect? Not me, I'd understand. Darryl would look at me, the only child not laughing, walk to my desk, lift my eyes to his and say, "Why, you must be Lily." I'd look at the monogram D on his sweater.
Yes, and you are Darryl, aren't you?
Why, how did you guess?
Oh, Darryl, Lily is the very best there is at guessing names. How she ever guessed Margaret Ann, I will never know.
Why, of course, I should have known. Won't you join Margaret and me for a cup of coffee? Margaret wants you to be bridesmaid at the wedding. And then you must come and live with us.
I was the first to see him. He tapped lightly on the glass. Miss Sweeny turned suddenly from the blackboard and squeaked the chalk, something she'd never done before. She glanced at the door, she glanced back at us, and her voice seemed to tremble as she said, "Excuse me, class." And she disappeared into the hall. I couldn't see them, but I knew exactly what they were doing. And my blood was pounding from the thought of monogram pushing against monogram. The kids were quiet at first, but they began to grow restless, so I got up to quiet them down. And before I realized that I was standing at the blackboard, a piece of chalk in my hand. I don't know what came over me, maybe it was the laughs, but I turned to the blackboard and I began to draw a beautiful Hawaiian hula girl. The swaying arms, the grass skirt. Beside the hips, I drew little shape marks. And when I drew the breasts, I covered them lovingly with a little grass brassiere, monogrammed with a little M, big S, little A. In my very best handwriting, I wrote, "Shake it, Miss Sweeny." Everyone laughed, and then I sat down. When she came back into the room, I think her lipstick was smeared. I didn't get a good look. As soon as she saw the hula girl, she turned right at me and she said, "Lily, this time you have gone too far. It is just not funny." On the way home that day, all I could think of was Miss Sweeny. "Lily, this time you have gone too far. It is just not funny." As I stood at the corner of Hamilton and Claremont Streets, I watched the Hamilton bus approach. I decided to throw myself in front of it to end it all. I didn't see her. I swear to God, jumped out. I didn't even see her. She showed such promise.
Hey, that's the kid that said Ephraim.
Get someone. Is there anything?
Where's somebody get Miss Sweeny? That's her favorite pupil. Wait. It's too late. And as the crossing guard picked up my limp little body, cradled my little head in his arms, with my last breath, I gazed up at his tear-stained face and I said, "Tell Miss Sweeny goodbye."